there were so many coaches that were interested in this topic. And we wanted to be able to kind of take a deeper dive in terms of, well, what is really happening in this space? And you all get both Scott and I, because Scott and I talk about a lot of this information together. And by the way, everything that you're going to be hearing today, it's been recorded. You can subscribe. I'm going to add it to my YouTube channel. And I also have prepared a whole list, a Google folder list for you that has all of the information. But for today, we are going to be covering a little bit about the introduction to AI. What does AI coaching mean to us? What is it? What does it mean to us? And what can you do about it? And then I'm going to give you a little bit of an AI overview, a little bit of a journey of what's been happening in the AI space related to coaching, more macroly AI, but then more specifically honing in on AI coaching. And then the mindset that people that have been adopting AI coaching, what does it look like? And then we're going to turn it back to you and ask you questions. And then Scott's going to take us into a deeper dive, and we're going to be learning more about AI prompts, so you get to experience that. And again, Scott and I came together because we're kind of pioneers adopting AI in our coaching and his leadership development organization. I'm currently a coach and a consultant, and I have used AI specifically to coach apprentices and their leaders and coaches. And we did that by launching an AI platform through a platform called ServiceNow, but the back engine was ChatGPT. So we put all of the coaching information in this in ChatGPT that basically ran the chatbot for coaching. And it was very successful and it was widely adopted. And so I'm just continuing that journey in AI. And then I'll let Scott tell you a little bit more about him and why he's also interested in AI and AI coaching.
Great, thanks. Scott Hopkins, overseer talent leader development at Broadway Bank. As were mentioned, we're both early adopters. I come from a background of a bachelor's in computer science, so I've got a pocket protector that I keep hidden, and so I kind of keep that technical side in the background, pretty much in most things I do. Was initially, as we begin to look at this concept, I've been able to take some AI tools and begin to apply them in leader development through our mentorship program within HR and through different elements of coaching. And so we'll be able to share some of those prompts with you and kind of how we go about doing that today.
Yeah, that's great. So the question for you all is, what do you want to take away from this session today? What do you want to experience? What do you want to learn? Or what do you want to apply as we go through this presentation? If you'll just place that in the chat. No problem can be solved from the level of consciousness that created it. And we're certainly going to be talking about what is that consciousness, human or is it artificial consciousness? So, just to level set a little bit, we are going to be speaking about AI versus generative AI. And the differences that I want you to think about is AI is just analyzing and predicting information. So, machines are going to learn to perform specific tasks. They're going to analyze data and make decisions based on information that they gather. So, it's like this. It's a computer that's learning to recognize the language pattern, and then they follow rules to solve that problem. An example of that would be Netflix or YouTube. How many of you watch Netflix or have Netflix? Yes. Or even YouTube. How many of you go on to YouTube? So what happens is that they analyze your viewing history. That's data. And so that data is going to recognize your patterns in what you like and then makes a prediction about other shows or movies that they recommend for you to watch. And it isn't creating anything new. It's classifying and exist the recommended existing content that's in their model, that's in their framework. Generative AI, however, is a little bit different. It creates brand new content like text or images, music, or even code. And that's never existed before. It learns from massive amounts of existing data, then uses that knowledge to generate something new. So here's an example of generative AI. A tool like ChatGPT can write an email or use DALL-E, DALL hyphen E, and it creates a picture of an astronaut that's riding on a horse on the moon. You give it the prompt and it doesn't find a pre-existing picture. What it does is it generates an entirely new image based on its understanding of what an astronaut, a horse, and a moon look like. So those are the two distinctions of AI and generative AI, and we're going to be taking a deeper dive into AI. So, what is AI? AI is nothing more than a large language model. And if you see here, there's a list of models that that you probably are familiar with. And what's important to recognize here is there are many, and there will be even more that are going to continually show up as AI continues to mature in the marketplace. So the question, and by the way, so there's Gemini, which is formerly Bard, and that's Google, and then ChatGPT, which was developed by OpenAI, and then Claude, developed by Anthropic, and Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI assistant, and it uses OpenAI's GPT models. You probably have heard of Llama, that's developed by Meta, Grok. I don't know if you all have heard of that. That's developed by xAI, Elon Musk's AI company. And then Mistral is European. Perplexity is an AI-powered answer machine. Ernie Bot, developed by the Chinese tech company Baidu, and Quen, developed by an Alibaba cloud. So you could already see all over the world that there's a lot of large language models that are being developed. But we're going to turn this question back over to you. And if you just click on that same link in the chat, the question we have is how often do you use AI or ChatGPT or BARD or any of those large language models?
All right, this gives us kind of a view of our audience. Looks like that we've all used it some for something. Some of us more on the basic task pieces, and 43% of us use it regularly, kind of their work or at home.
It's really important that what we're seeing is we are also adopting AI even in our own daily lives. Um, So, a little bit of background. How do we get to where we're at today? Well, it didn't start in, 2025. It really started back in 1950. How many of you all knew that? With Alan Turing. Yeah.
Oh,
So Alan Turing is the one that began with traditional AI and it was rule-based and limited data. And then it moved into machine learning with IBM's Deep Blue. Did y'all know the IBM started to pick up a lot of AI in the 90s? Yeah. And then deep learning started to happen, and that's where a lot of these neural networks, where there was a lot of complexity of data and networks that were sharing information. That was really Jeffrey Hinton in 2006. And then 2014 is where generative AI began to announce itself on the screen or on the scene, I should say. And that's with GANs, Generative AI Networks, and that's Ian Goodfellow. So you could see that, since 1950, we have been, our world has been growing with AI, but I'm going to share something else with you. There's been an acceleration, and that acceleration it began in about 2018. But you'll notice in 2019 there was slow adoption. 2020 when COVID hit, but it was 2021 and then 2022, which was the inflection point because in December of 2022 is when ChatGPT was released, and over 1 million users in a month began to use ChatGPT. So that inflection point is really what developed the momentum of the growth from 2022 to 2024. And that's where just scaling happened in terms of how the data was being used, and particularly for personalized development plans. This is a really important key to understand because when now look at 2025, there's this hockey stick growth. The predictions are that it's just going to continue to be this linear growth for the adoption of AI. So there's another research, and all of this is in your notes. What we found from 2024 to 2025 is that personal and professional support became the top three themes, if you will, for AI use. And when you look at that compared to 2024, it was content creating and editing in 2024, generating ideas. Well, now the number one in 2025 is therapy and companionship. So when you look at these three themes of personal and professional support, really the new use cases that are identified here is organizing my life and finding purpose. No, in other words, those didn't show up on the horizon in 2024. They began to emerge into 2025. Now, how many of you know that those are areas that intersect with what we do as coaches? Pretty significant. So you can already see that AI has been uh, really creating a lot of disruption in our work, and it's just going to continue. So the question we have for you is, what are some of the concerns that you have about AI in the coaching industry? And if you just click on the poll, you can add your comments there.
What are your top concerns right now about AI in the coaching industry? Confidentiality is not credible for sure. Being replaced. AI gets better and better, and people will feel more comfortable to use it. False sense of accomplishment. Confidentiality again. Being replaced. Got some themes going on. Task over transformation. Definitely some commonality here and some insights, and these are also, as we've seen across the industry and others, particularly around the sense of confidentiality and being replaced.
Well, I'm grateful that you asked those questions and raised those concerns because we went back to ICF and we wanted to know what were their standards on AI coaching. And what ICF standards, and this is a guide that's also in your resources, they indicated the key benefit and opportunities is to enhance efficiency for coaches. Hands down, we said that previously. The second is democratization of coaching. The third is deeper organizational integration, and then emergence of fully automated coaching. Now, on the other hand, they also indicated there were some risks and challenges that ICF was navigating. Bias was one. The second was data privacy and security, confidentiality. Three was the client trust and emotional investment that they would have with an AI bot or an AI coach. And the fourth is how can it distinguish coaching from therapy? Very clear what they indicated were some of the risk and challenges. However, what they also recommended in this standards report is that AI coaching does provide 24/7 coaching for their clients as they access AI through an LLM like a ChatGPT. They also indicated that it can offload lots of small tasks, such as doing our marketing through those AI tools, and also client recordings and how that can improve the coaching skills toward the ICF core competencies. And I'm just curious, by a show of hands, how many of you here are using any kind of AI to review your client recordings? Okay. All right. So the question is, how are you using AI today?
Yes, I use it to develop the program, the coaching program. After the discovery session, I upload a transcript and I use Claude, and Claude gives me the coaching program because already I fed information into Claude, my coaching philosophy, some of the frameworks that I normally use. And I mean, I don't follow it completely, but I do use some of the bullet points. And I also use to see to review coaching sessions, both for my own training and improvement as a coach, and for doing coach mentoring sessions for ACC and PCC levels. I've used for many years. I use RAE notes, and they're getting better and better and better. It's just very powerful. You just upload a recording, whether it's Zoom or an audio recording, into RAE notes, and for very little money, you can get the transcript uploaded, and it's a very powerful platform that includes all the markers, and you can pause it, correct the transcript. You can select the competencies or the competencies that the coach is not doing. Gives you percentages, gives you their like who's talking the most and all that. It's very, very, very powerful. I love it.
Martha, that's very powerful how you're able to like increase or accelerate your work and also just adding value to the client by having AI help you kind of frame up what you already have, but add to the content or your philosophy. And like you said, it's like I don't take exactly what AI is telling me to do for my client. I kind of massage it, work it in. Carrie, can you tell us a little bit more about how you used it in your MCC credentialing process?
Yeah, so somebody else in credentialing, it wasn't even in my training group, but they talked about uploading their audio transcript and telling AI to give you feedback on MCC credentials and how you did. And so I was aiming for like, would this be passed or not, right? Of course, you want the easy answer. Um, and it was interesting to see, where they said like these skills were good based on the credentials and these ones, maybe next time do more of this. So that was valuable.
And that's very powerful. And according to, sorry, Minna, I think you were going to say something, but in, ICF's core competencies is that we are continually learning and developing and honing our skill as coaches. And Carrie, that's what you were doing is honing your skills according to the core competencies so that you can move from PCC to MCC. And that's just making the coaching industry even
Yeah.
better because the outcome
Yeah.
for the client is accelerated. It's more transformation.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Maybe related to that, when I wrote my book, I wanted to do a handbook and I uploaded my entire book into AI and said, give me questions to guide the handbook. And so like Marta just really massaging that, but it was like a big jump forward and just like efficiently getting the handbook done.
Fantastic. Another great example. Using your own content, nothing that AI generated for you. It was just a matter of existing content, repurposing the content in a way that it just added additional insight and value for you, which you get to update or massage or change. That's
Yeah.
great.
I just had a quick one. I used it this morning. I had a good but challenging session yesterday, and I used it this morning for kind of a twofold approach. How can I improve as a coach when working in this space, when working with this client on this particular issue? And what resources might I recommend, whether it's technique, framework, or book, again, for either me or the client? So it kind of gave me a good sense of how can I improve in this space and help my client along the way. And it was useful, and it was quick, and it was simple, and it was very task oriented, and it saved me from reading the book, thinking about it, thinking about the action plan on my own. It was just a real nice, neat, tidy way to say, I want to get better so I can help this problem, and not help, but guide my client along. And it was super quick, and it was super beneficial, and I probably wouldn't have done it otherwise.
Excellent. What platform did you use, Colleen?
Chat.
Chat GPT. Okay, great.
I haven't dove into the other ones. I actually had a client who used something that morphed all of them. I don't know if you know which one this is, but it sounded really exciting and really powerful, and he was really complex about everything he did. But it was something that basically said, I'm going to choose which AI tool is best for this situation. I don't know what it was called. Maybe you can enlighten me.
Perplexity. Perplexity will
Complexity
Is
is
that
what
what
it
it is?
sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
it's great.
Okay, I want to just share two more examples. I did some 360 interviews for one of the clients, and I had all the recordings, and based on the questionnaire, blah blah blah, and I fed them all to to Claude, and Claude gave me an action plan. Very good, very complete, very thorough. The other example is I was in a bind. I had to come up with 5 different training courses I was going to do in 1 week in Guatemala, and that's in Spanish. All right, by the way, because you can feed it any language, and you tell the what language you want it back in, and it gave me one of the ones that was incredible was the communication one. I said very interactive, not more interactive. No, give me more instructions more specifics for the instructions. I want step-by-step instructions because I'm very bad at that. And it just was wonderful. I got the most wonderful reviews. Of course, I messaged it, I changed it, I added the slides, I thought about better ways, but really it was I couldn't have done the 5 different trainings from scratch in that amount of time. No, it saved my life. Just joking that, yeah.
Another great example, Martha. Thank you, of how AI is really helping us. Is anyone working with their clients using AI? Like they're engaged with you using AI? Hi, Nina.
Hi, sorry I jumped in super late. I just ran out of a meeting. But so I'm doing career coaching with our alumni, and part of it is they're asking me for ideas on um, other jobs that they can do that are related to their skills. So what the recommendation is that, go into ChatGPT, explain what you do now, what your experience is, and I would like to look for a role that uses these experiences, spit out a list of 10 things that meet this goal. And so then they do that, and they come back with their list of potential career choices, and then kind of just going through it with them of what that would look like and their interest level in those areas. But it's been pretty useful for everyone that I've suggested that to. They've come back, coming away with it and saying like that's really helpful, and the list that it spits out for them is spot on, because you can tweak it and massage and say I'd like more of this or more of that, like Martha said, but it's a good first stab at it.
I appreciate you sharing that because that's the next generation that is getting used to interacting with AI to get feedback and decisions, which goes back to those top coaching trends and how people are engaging with AI. And it's not only just the companionship, but it's organizing their life and then finding purpose. Like what are the roles, right, that I can qualify for? So that's really powerful. I was just going to share one last thing, and that is when Martha, you mentioned it earlier, when your client has, and when we're setting the agenda and we're developing what, Colleen, you mentioned this too, developing what are some of the best practices or learnings or techniques or tips that they can use. Um, when we set the agenda, what I will usually do is have them open up a platform, and I'll tell them just put what you just said and ask AI what are some coaching tips? And then I mention, according to ICF's core competencies, that you can ask me so that I can continually improve in my emotional intelligence, in my time management. And they were, many of them that have adopted it were extraordinarily impressed. And that's something that I have them use in between our sessions, because the more they can learn, the more that they can develop their personal journey, then the more impact we'll have when we're having the coaching conversation. And they'll get to test the difference. So that's, I just wanted to offer that up as another suggestion. So here's a question we're all asking, or maybe some of us more than others, but can AI replace a coach? Well, I wanted to know that answer to the question and kind of where are we now in with that question. So there's this guy, his name is James Greenfield, and he's a CEO for and founder of Koto. And the reason why he's such an influencer is because he's currently working with brands like Google, Airbnb, and Amazon. And it's about how they're changing the future and using AI specifically in their customer engagement, in their operations, in their marketing, et cetera. And what James was indicating is that AI will be able to simulate these expressions in terms of intuition, which is a question many of us have. Can AI be intuitive? Can AI be empathetic? And from his perspective, he said that AI is going to be able to determine these subtle shifts in the client's facial expressions, but also the tone of voice and the choice of language. In terms of empathy, his perspective is an AI coach cannot feel the emotions or comprehend emotional states, and it can utilize vast data sources to analyze the client and make predictions. Very similar to what we were all talking about here today in terms of adding additional content. We don't have the emotion or the feeling, but if we were to add that as a keyword and give AI a sense of what that is for the client, then again, it's able to analyze that information and then make some predictions. Pretty powerful.
Mm.
Now, I think we have enough time to watch this, but this is Dr. Caroline Leaf. She's known as the brain doctor. She's in Dallas. She's been doing neuroscience for over 30 years. And here's what she
We have
had
to
say.
ask, what
Can you
happens
hear
when
it?
we feel more emotionally seen by a machine than by another human? AI is always available. It doesn't judge, it mirrors your tone because it's not human. It doesn't have that energy that radiates from our creativity. That accessibility makes it very attractive, especially for people who don't feel safe in traditional relationships or therapy settings or have a bit of social anxiety. But AI doesn't feel, it doesn't sense your nervous system. If it sounds like it's becoming smarter, it's because we're smarter. That's what trauma-informed connection is built on.
She talked a lot about, trauma is a lot of in her area of expertise. But I want to show you a study that was done transitioning to the organizational learning and development and coaches in organizations by a researcher, David T. And David T, he's the editor of the Coaching Psychologist, and he oversees and does study evaluations from an independent perspective. He released this particular study. It was a case study where they went to the NHS, the National Health Services in the UK, and he introduced the idea of just reviewing for 1 month 53 volunteers that were leaders, and they were trust pioneers with NHS and UK. They were coaches, they were senior leaders in the organizations, and they understood coaching because they had had some experience with coaches. I don't know why I raised my hand, but Okay. So the survey before and they did a before and after the AI coaching experience. They also measured goal attainment very specifically and self-efficacy, self-belief in overcoming challenges. And they identified uh, the identities were confidential from this AI coach dot chat bot that they used in the case study. They conducted the coaching sessions in accordance to prompts that they built into the tool, very similar to what you heard Martha say earlier. I took my coaching philosophy, I put that in. Those are the guardrails, those are the boundaries. And then the results that they found within this 1 month of 53 leaders was that they had reached goal attainment that increased by 10%. They also found that there was self-efficacy, which increased by 5%, and there was no variation in gender. So the question that he poses to us as coaches and leaders is, would 53 people see that level of change if we deliver coaching sessions to all of them within a month? Well, if maybe, we don't know. So that was a really interesting an interesting case study. Darren Leach was the director and head, or is the director and head of NHS Select. And he indicated that if we bring the benefits of coaching to the many rather than just a few elite, we'll be producing more resilient individuals, more cohesive teams, and ultimately better outcomes across the entire organization and system. Why? Because coaching AI is not there. We're not there as coaches 24/7, but the coaching AI bot can be. One other thing that I wanted to mention that David T had shared on LinkedIn with me, he had met with a leader with Philip Morris. And one of the things that the Philip Morris leader indicated to him was uh, that many coaches aren't with their clients 24/7. And um, are they really engaged with the client to empathize with them? Because they're only with them a short period of time. And so the question that they asked is, to what extent do you really genuinely think your executive coach empathizes with you? Do you think they go home at night and worry about you? Would it even be appropriate and professional for them to do so? The divide between the professional coaches and AI coaches might be narrower than one might first assume. They should both be able to create a space where the client feels able to be authentic and open in a non-judgmental space of positive regard. If they can consistently do that, maybe the urge for empathy drops down the pecking order a bit, is what he had a conversation on. And I found that to be very interesting because it hones in on that issue of empathy, that one-on-one, in-person coaching conversation. Well, it's not enough. I wanted to share with you Cal Newport. And Cal Newport, for those of you who may or may not know, he is an MI trained computer science professor that teaches at Georgetown University and writes a lot of books like this one, Slow Productivity. And what Cal is indicating, where AI is making a real impact, is number one, it's not the killer app. It's not text generation. It's going to be the smart search and the programming assistance, what you heard in the breakout. That's going to be number one impact. The number two impact is the natural language interfaces. So this looks like Tony Stark. If you remember in Iron Man, for those of you who've watched that movie, he's speaking to the computer, he's analyzing the data, he's shifting it around as the algorithms are changing for him, and he's doing it through voice command. And so voice command is going to be the next big application. It's Siri, Alexis, Google, Hey Google on steroids. The next thing is AGI and superintelligence. Is it hyper reality? This has to do with something else called the hallucination effect. Um, when people say that AI is going to replace coaches, what they're saying is they don't know how that's really going to happen. Even if they say it is going to happen, it truly is unknown, is what he's saying. It is unknown. And the last is the immediate task. There's going to be real world disruptions that we're all going to be facing, but it's not doomsday. AI is not taking over the world. You saw how it started back in 1950 and the inflection point. We're just going to continue to move in that, adoption of AI, but it certainly isn't going to take over the world. Another quick little tidbit that I'll share is Isaac Asimov. For those of you who may have heard of him, honestly, I never heard of him until I started doing some of this research. Martha says, yes, I have. I know, Randy. I know. Where have I been? I know. Where have I been? And so, prolific writer, and he's really the one that introduced the three laws of robotic and explore the human construct relationships. And so, number one, I thought this was really interesting. The three laws of robotics is number one, don't hurt humans, and number two, follow orders unless it violates the first law, and then number three, preserve yourself unless it violates the first or second law. So, thank you, Isaac Asimov, for that. But going back, yes,
Just a tiny thing. I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch the movie Her, like Her, and it's a 2013 movie. I went to watch that, and I said, "No way, this can never happen," and it's happening now. And I tell you what, it's going to solve a lot of the problems of the world because people are lonely. Loneliness is so huge. And if we can relate to robot or AI, people are going to feel better. And I tell you, I have a client that I said, no, I won't take you unless you're seeing a doctor. She's seeing a psychiatrist and is medicated. She has a lot of issues. Well, every week she goes to AI and asks AI to evaluate her, and she sends me these reports. I said, well, you should still go to the doctor. Yes, I'm going to the doctor, but I'm sending you the reports on my progress. Oh my goodness, people are going to quit going to the psychologist. I don't know. But
really powerful.
A lot of them cannot afford to pay for mental health. So just a thought.
It is a great thought that many people are going to capitalize or monetize. You wait and see. So I wanted to take us back before we go into a little bit more experimentation with Scott. That's coming up next. But with Dr. Caroline Leaf, she did this YouTube presentation, which is in your resources in the notes. And she really segmented into three things: our brains, our habits, and the AI powered world. And she talked about mental health and how cognitive offloading, dependency on devices, is so damaging to our brains. It's called the Google effect for many of you who may have already heard about that. And it's basically when you Google something, you get information, and then you share it, and then you forget about it. So the long-term retention process isn't there. And I wish I had time to add Dr. Justin Sung's work, who's a doctor in learning, but he confirms a lot of what Dr. Caroline Leaf is indicating. The second is on digital dependency, and it's AI-driven platforms that create addictive dopamine loops, and that equals attention fragmentation and chronic tech burnout, and it reduces deep focus and self-regulation. So how many of you are focused on a task and you just get distracted because of some kind of technology or some kind of a noise? And that's just because we're not taking the time to read a book or concentrate on a particular task. Clickbait. That's right, Carrie. That's right. And then the systemic landscape, it's the societal shift is replacing human co-regulation, where emotions are managed through social interaction. And with algorithm-driven interactions, it does reduce empathy and social skill development. What she's saying there is that we need people. We need to be in front of people. We need to socialize with people. We need to learn from people. AI is good, but we need to have that human connection. So basically, that's a summary of what she is saying from a neuroscience perspective. Okay, and a quote that she said: if you don't lose your mind to AI, you lose it when you stop noticing. Really powerful. Okay, so now we're going to tee it up to the application. How can you use AI? And with that, I am going to turn it over to Scott.
Thank you, Aurora. Thank you for that great information. It was just very powerful to see all the utilization and research that is going on around AI. So one thing we want to look at here is what opportunities can we use today with generative AI? And so we've got some concepts to play with. We'll be sending you a document, a link to a document here in just shortly around some different prompts and ways that you can go about doing those things. If you can go ahead and advance to the next slide, please. So one thing about writing a prompt, there's an art to it. It's a science as well as an art. And so in general, we want to kind of start with a goal. What is it that you're after in the end? We want to get very clear and specific guidance around these things. And so we can begin to delineate, because the more generic we are, the more broad the responses will be, the more we can begin to narrow these things in by being clear and specific. We can actually get the things that we're really after. And giving it some context. Maybe it's the audience type. Maybe it's the type of things that we want to get out of this. And what format is it in? Do we want to get a Word document? We want to get a PowerPoint? We want to get a handout of some kind? And then what's nice is that after utilizing these kind of first four, whatever it gives us is the first draft. Then we begin to work with it and ask it questions. We could say something as simple as shorten that, make this more professional sounding, and refine those responses. And so this becomes an iterative process. Next slide. So here's an example. So what is the goal? Something that we want? We want to do a self-reflection worksheet for our clients on this idea of establishing these boundaries, what that is. So what specifics we want to put into, we want to get very focused on the question suitable for the client journaling. So we're getting that targeted aspect. The context, well, we looking at mid-level managers, and in this case, who say really no, have some struggles with saying no and overcommitting their time. What format do we want it in? A printable handout. And even being more specific with 5 reflection prompts. So these 4 kind of gives us the setup of the framework for the prompt itself. I'll give an example of that in just a minute. What we've learned is that you can give the AI prompt a persona. And so, for example, act as a master certified coach. The system, and through its knowledge, it knows what ICF is, it knows what the ICF criteria is, and it knows what a master certified coach is and how they think. So we're saying act as a master certified coach and do these things. And it really then gives us a much more robust response to this. I'll have all this in the documentation that I'll be giving you in a few minutes. So this role piece, it really helps to improve that relevance and the credibility. What we found is, so imagine that if we just ask it a very broad question, it has a very broad base of knowledge it pulls from. The more we narrow it in, the tighter we're refining what we're going to get back. And then we add the persona to it, and it really tailors it specifically for what we're after. Here's an example. Again, this will be in your notes in a moment. So act as a master certified coach. That's a persona. We've talked about we want a handout for a client, setting boundaries. There's 5 prompts that we want to ask for, and we're kind of delineating that even more. Their struggle to say no, how it affects their energy, what beliefs they have. So it's helping to delineate those journaling prompts. And now we're telling it a tone, make the tone supportive and growth oriented. And it will adjust the words that it provides us in the output. So that is just one example of how we do prompting. And so I'm going to pull up a document and share out the document that kind of gives a reference around these things. So you'll get this in a Word format, so it's easily extractable. It covers lots of things in here. One is about that area we just covered, how to write a good prompt. And in this case, say, well, I haven't really written a lot of prompts. So you can actually have AI help you write a prompt. So then we'll go into some coaching prompts, some contracts, some client support, and even some ways to do some personal application with some fun. So we've got an example here of how to write a good prompt. This is what we just went through. And this concept of a persona. So act as a master certified coach is a persona, but the people that write prompts are called prompt engineers. So we're going to say, act as a prompt engineer. and help me with my prompt. And so it's going to help refine that around us. Now, I'm going to give you two examples of how we can refine that. One, a basic example. So if you ever like, I don't know what to say, just type in act as a prompt engineer. And then what I've found is this keyword here is revise what you've given me. So I've given it 3 or 4 sentences and tell me what's missing. So it takes what you give it, it looks what it's missing, and then it enhances it from there. So that's really the basic. Act as an engineer, revise, and what's missing. Now, there's an advanced level, and I'm going to give you an example for both of these. So we're going to do this idea again. We're going to give it a draft prompt, and it could be 1 sentence. And we're going to tell it a little bit more. We're going to get more specific. I want you to enhance it, to tell what's missing, improve it, giving it with a persona. So it's going to tell it, give me a persona back with my prompt. Make it clear, give me some instructions. And as we talked earlier, so these AIs are called large language models. Whatever tool we might use, it might be Claude, it might be ChatGPT, they're all large language models. And then we say, ask any clarifying questions. So it will in turn ask us questions to refine what that prompt might look like. So I'm going to pull up ChatGPT. And here it is. So that should be coming across there. And I've got a little sample prompt. Here's the very basic one. So help my client improve their communication skills. That's my basic prompt. All right. So if I run it, it'll take just a second here. It'll kind of bring back some broad general things. Now, as it's thinking, I'm going to go over to our document and grab the basic one. All right. So it's saying, here it is. Here's some basic areas. And notice it's kind of broad, active listening, confidence, empathy. Okay. So that's we get back from the basic prompt. Now I'm going to say act as a prompt engineer. Here's the prompt that's below. So I'm going to go back to that one example. So the first one, we said, help my client with their communication skills, and it went off and ran. Now we're saying, I want you to take what I'm giving you and revise it before you go off and run. So it's going to revise our particular prompt. Now notice the level of detail that we get out of the simple aspect of being a prompt engineer. So here's the revised prompt. I'm a coaching client, give it the background, areas to improve, challenges and goals. And then we just say something as simply as execute. Get my caps lock off. And it will go now run that prompt that we just gave it, that it built on its own. So let's see kind of how we get some more refinement out of it. Now, notice the level of detail that we're getting out of this. And it kind of comes back with, I'll give you some more information if you would like. All right, now let's run that third level prompt that we're going to ask it for a lot more information. So here's our prompt. Act as an engineer and give me some more stuff. So act as an engineer, that's my prompt. And then I'm at my one-liner. And so sometimes I'll use a very basic prompt just to get kind of what I'm after, but sometimes I'll leverage this concept of go make it better for me, and I get much more robust information. So this should give us a pretty good, robust output for the prompt itself. So our prompt is going to be much more detailed. And again, we're just having ChatGPT write the prompt for us based upon some things we want. You can give it 3 or 4 sentences and things like that. So here's what's missing: client context, target communication, challenging goals. So it's kind of helping define those things for me. Here is the prompt with a persona. You're a professional executive communication coach. So it's defining what that persona is. It's going down, asking me some clarifying questions. And so I'm just going to say, I'm going to number one, they're a manager. So let's say that they struggle with team meetings. So number two is team meetings, and give me a coaching plan. Again, it educated itself on what we did, and now it's refined the prompt itself. It's going to add this back to the prompt, and then it's going to run it for us. So 3 tiers, one liner with a few tweaks, one liner with more detail. Boom. Here's our enhanced prompt. It added in managers, team meetings, so it gave us that detail for us. And it said, give us these things, 4-week coaching plans. I didn't ask her this, but it's saying these are the things that you should probably need if you're an executive communication coach. And we're just going to say, execute. So the beauty of this is that we don't have to be really, really smart in AI and how to talk to it. We can just tell it, do this for me. You're the engineer, act this way. It's doing a little bit of thinking. So there are multiple versions. There are the ChatGPT free version. This is the particular paid version. So it gives me a few more. There's the diagnostic summary, 4-week coaching plan, week 2, week 3, week 4. Resources are involved in that, and so forth. So by just leveraging this one prompt here, basic and advanced, we really get much more robust information out of it. So it really boils down to how you get what you really ask for. And so it will help us ask for better things.
Mhm.
Questions so far?
Wow.
All right. Now, so I've got a set of prompts for us. These are different coaching prompts based upon different topics. Session planning, alignment, so act as a master certified coach, generate me some questions aligned with this competency. Some client reflection prompts. Again, and you can leverage these and run them back through that expanded prompt. But they're starting out with the basic elements. Coaching tools, executive business for coaching, progress reviews, debriefs, some enhancements, accountability and follow-up. Now, there might be some elements of contracts that you want to act as. So I'm going to act as a legal writing assistant. It's sometimes going to say, I'm not a lawyer, but I'll give you this information. And then you take it and you work with it. And you kind of, again, it's the first draft, and you begin to look at it. Draft a cancellation and refund policy. How does that work for me? So it will generate these things for you. Again, leverage that prompt engineer if you want more detail. Some client support handouts, some growth tools, one-page handout, coaching journals, worksheets, etc.
Wow.
And finally, here's some things that I was like, so what else can you do? Well, being summertime, maybe it'll help us plan a vacation for us. So here's a pretty detailed prompt that we can give to say, I'm going to go somewhere. I want you to go look up this information, where to go eat, what the local people are saying, all kinds of stuff like that. Give me some kind of format and a summary of that. So I'm going to show you the output for one of those. This is, here's a 7-day itinerary to Seattle. So it took the prompt I gave it, and it said, let's go up 7 days in mid-October.
Oh, wow.
And it broke it down for me. Now, I thought about going to Canada only for Carrie's purposes, but she would have to tell us what works and what doesn't work there, right? And so it's about, the budget is moderate, value friendly, so we can define kind of overall spend, and what the pace is. And so it kind of broke us out, for us day 1, 2, 3, 4. We can interact with that and say, well, give me something, maybe one major thing. Well, what's my must hits while I'm there? And so it'll break these things down for you. Finally, I know when I'm like wanting to shop for something, I like look at all the ratings on Amazon, and I try to find this and I try to find that. Wouldn't it be cool if AI did that for us? So this is a shopping assistant prompt just for you. So you put in kind of what you want. It'll go out and search for products for you, higher ratings. You can put in your criteria. Here's how much my minimum, here's how much I want to spend. I really wanted to have these features. If you see something that's really not important to you, you can just delete it out. And it will build a table for you and some summary. So let's look at one more of these. And so here is some wireless earbuds. So it went out and it found some top three. It gave me my characteristics I was asking for, some pros and cons. And it did that for 3 different products on its own. And then it built a table for me. And here's my recommendation. So
Scott, question about that, even looking at the shopping one, like how do you know that that's like pulling on legit information?
um, it's so by defining some of the characteristics, it's like here, at least 100 verified reviews. So you kind of bound it in. If you don't bound that in, it's going to just give you some surface level information.
And also
And
sources, Scott, if you can share that in ChatGPT, any large language model, how sources work.
yes, and so there's some natural parts built into it, like Google is going to give you those that pay for their algorithms and things like that. So it will serve up some things for you. So there are some biases involved. I did mention, let me make a note here. In this particular prompt, I said try to avoid some biases or sponsored results. Focus on credibility, verified insights, and recent market data. So trying to overcome some of those Google Analytic aspects so we can get really more reliable data.
If you asked it to exclude sponsored, would they normally show up in the regular search anyway? It's just that they wouldn't pop up to the top, which is why the sponsored always shows up first.
So with Google Analytics, that'll automatically show up to the top. And if you just release it out there, and depending on the ratings, so it'll go look at Amazon and look at some of those ratings that are there. And of course, some of those are also inflated. And so it kind of combines all those. But that statement about avoiding does its best to overcome that if possible.
I'm just wondering if I said exclude sponsored, would I automatically take those product options out of the list? Or would they show up somehow?
It may not know that it's sponsored. It may, because unless it says sponsored on it. But probably, if you say exclude those, more than likely it would.
Scott, you've opened up my whole new world of shopping. I just can't tell you. Man, talk about an addiction loop. Woo!
And then we don't have to buy those consumer reports anymore, right?
So there's still humans involved in consumer reports. I still trust the human. So if you would, Aurora, could you drop that link in the chat for everybody to the document?
Done. Yeah. And also remember there's gated information, and that means you have to pay for that information. So a lot of these LLMs don't loop that in unless they've put it out in an open platform like a LinkedIn where they can read the content or on a website. But if it's gated content, you probably won't get that information.
So with that, I want to open up any comments, questions, thoughts of the day.
Wow.
No comments, just a great presentation, very thorough, and we've got practical things to look at and some good history and understanding that was new for me. So thank you.
I really appreciated the just interaction, learning best practices from each other, as well as what the experts in the room have shared.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering, how you work this in and getting permission with a client if you're using AI. I mean, it's in the contracting, it's in the contracts?
Yes. Let's just go there. So I'm going to pull up ChatGPT and let's go. Got some kind of a coaching prompts here. So it has these things in memory, so it kind of knows kind of what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So provide language for a coaching contract that I use AI to supplement um, my coaching and business. So very specific around that. Now, we could go through and run this through the prompt generator, all that kind of good stuff. But I have looked at some of this earlier, and so it will give us some keywords here. And so we can actually say, break this down to give me very specific sentences. And so it will help us identify what those are. So provide 2 sentences for my contract. Oh, and it is very forgiving. Let's just use this. So that is a misspell. Let's just run it, and it'll recognize what that is and interpret. So I may use. And so we'll just take that. I'll just drop that in the chat.
While you're doing that too, let me ask, Aurora, you talked about the gated information and ungated. I guess I'm wondering, like several of us in that Mentimeter first question talked about confidentiality. So part of that worry is you put information out there. How are we, I don't know, how can we just protect that or I don't know, what do we do with
So
it?
once you upload a document, that document goes into the knowledge base. If you have your branding on it, your personal information, client information, any kind of that stuff, it goes into the cloud. So the recommendation is to genericize it. So it's not personalized, there's no personal information in it. There's no personal branding. So you become more generic questions or content. You can actually strip down a document or you can tell it, so you don't want to upload it and then say, give me, make this more generic because you've already uploaded it. So
Mm.
there,
So
go ahead.
like you log in with your user ID, like you can't strip that away. If I loaded up a document with my company logo or my book, then I'm giving that away.
It goes into the knowledge base, and some people may be able to search on something and it may hook up and find it.
Mm.
Not sure. I'm going to go. Do you know about the book Ask Holt? And let me do a screen share.
That's
And
just so
let's
fun to say out loud.
see what's out there. I'm nervous. I'm so nervous.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a good strategy really maybe that we can all do. Like tell me about Coach Carrie, right? Um, yeah, there it is. Huh.
You're out there.
Yeah, the first one is the Urban Dictionary. Interesting.
Fantastic. Well, I know that we have just a few minutes to wrap up. I wanted to make sure that we asked another important question, and that important question is, are you interested in a follow-up session? Everybody is, I don't know. What does that mean, Tim? Martha's like,
Yeah,
yeah, let's do it. Mina is like, yeah, Tim.
sure.
Yeah. And questions like Carrie just asked would be really important for us to even do that in a live demonstration because it really begins to uncover the things that we don't know, right? Those are great case studies.
Like I'm wondering if maybe the follow part two is more workshopy where we get in a program and try some stuff and I don't know. If there's a way to like
Yep.
work while we explore or get advice from each other, or I'm brainstorming out loud.
Ask AI.
I I think it would be really helpful to do a coaching session while using AI so we
Mm.
can mirror and see
Oh,
how that
Hmm.
would work because
yeah.
I have no idea how I would actually do a
Hmm.
live coaching session with using AI as my tool. That would be for me like a really beneficial iteration on top of
And
that.
I think part of it depends on if you're on camera or not.
Hmm.
And so it did say that it is beneficial sometimes to do it between sessions.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're not on camera, you could probably throw in a situation over here and ask for some, follow-up questions or something like that, and it'll generate stuff on the fly for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think like
Great.
even just like a between like two of us or something
Yeah.
using it iteratively like that would be really helpful.
Nina, there is a platform, and I think that's something Scott and I can take back to the
Hmm.
drawing board, take it back to uh, the lab, and see how we can do that. Also, what we have for you, all the key terms, the resources, and the presentation is in this folder. So you just put your phone on it and it'll take you straight to that drive, and you will have all of the information that we discussed today. And this presentation will be uploaded. I am putting it on my website, my YouTube website, and I'm happy to put it on ICF San Antonio's as well, Carrie. Just let me know. I can certainly do that. And here is the link. Just like, and you'll get a notification that it's been uploaded. And finally, just thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for learning with us because you just made us even smarter, better coaches as you engage with these critical questions. Yes, Minna.
Well, and I was frantically trying to pull it up, and I don't know what paragraph it is, but ICF addressed the communication of the use of AI in our current brand new April 2025 Code of Ethics. There's some new language that they've inserted about disclosing and communicating our use of AI in a coaching engagement. And so that goes to the contract, like having that in our contract about to what extent and how we would use AI. And the very first thing that many of us said was confidentiality and how to protect that. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it's in our new code of ethics, but I was going to quickly try to pull it up and quote the paragraph, but I couldn't do it that fast.
Round two.
It's there.